We're going to mark off the width of this, where the bark's going, in we're divided by 4, so that's this is 15, so 7.5 and 3 3/4, and then this width is 12. So we're going to divide that in half. So we have a proportion of, in width, of 3 3/4 to 3. On the regular side chair, because we don't have these corner blocks, it's 4 to 3, so that's an easy proportion to keep in your head.
Mm-hmm.
But you can very quickly do the math. 80%.
Okay.
So the bark here should be 80% the width of the bark here.
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to start with tying this on. It only happens once in the chair.
Okay.
I'm just going to do it. And if the bark is really thick here, I may thin this out. This is okay.
Okay. Okay, so you got a really narrow strip.
There's a good illustration in the manual. Oh, before we do that, we'll do our first taper. So this will be about where it is at the rear rung.
Mm-hmm.
Pull this out. Let me go the other way. Make more sense. So the tapering is based on whatever width you have at the front, 80% of that at the back. So I just eyeball it. Doesn't matter which side you cut it on.
Okay.
Sometimes I'll be cutting off both sides.
Okay.
No straight edges. It may not look that great when there's just so the warp is the front to back. When the warp is there, it may not look that great with just the warp. But remember, you're not seeing the whole length at one time. You're only going to be seeing short sections.
Okay.
After you weave. So any inconsistency in this edge is you won't be able to see when it's woven. So we're going to start by so again, this is the only place we tie on. I don't know what you call this. I thought it was a half hitch, but someone else told me I was wrong, so I don't really know what this is. But there's good illustration of it in the book.
In the Danish cord, they're calling that a cow knot.
Okay.
So I don't know. But the loop goes on the bottom, not on the top on this one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you do want to get it as snug as possible. That feels good. Now this will be the process from here on out on the warp.
Okay.
Now we've got one more little consideration on this. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
This is unique to this chair. You see that gap in there?
Mm-hmm.
So what we're going to do is we're going to move this over, and we're going to cut out a little
slice,
little wedge shape. So we want to cut out a shape that will allow us to have this flush. Once we're down here, we can tear it out.
Right?
Not going to matter. So now, nice, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then we're going to taper. That's the only time you have to do that except on this one. So So now we'll taper 80%. Let's say taper the full width, 80%. So
you're talking about from the beginning of this, where this cut started?
yeah, I mean, we'll be able to catch up if we don't. So so it's not a huge taper. On traditional post and rung chairs, they don't taper. So you go straight back. You would start your weave here, in line with the back rung, and then you would weave in fillers.
Right, you like wrap in or something.
But on this chair, I feel like this chair is more sophisticated than a traditional post and rung, and that this tapering is a really nice, subtle thing to do with the bark. Most people don't notice it, but when you point it out to them, they say, "Oh, yeah, that's nice." So now we're going to pull through. I don't make any effort to keep this in a bunch. You can if you're that way. Nice long piece is good. We'll get pretty far with this. Might as well cut this off. We're going to cut that off. No matter what. So here's the. This is what we need to do from here on out. Is adjust the tension. So what typically happens is that the bottom tends to droop. So what I do is I pull tight on the bottom. So I'm pulling really tight. And then I adjust the tension from the top. So that's too tight right now. You may not be able to see it, but if I push down, it's not coming with light pressure. I'm not pushing hard. I want to go with light pressure and have the top piece touch the bottom.
Okay.
So what that means is I need to loosen it up a little bit. There I go.
Okay.
Just like that, and then lock that in place. If you don't do that, and then you can lock it in place with this little tong.
Okay. I don't remember that.
Okay, that I've added that. Brian used to use something like that, so I think I messed it up. So tight on the bottom, adjust the tension on the top. The most frequent thing I have to do with students is tell them,
loosen it up.
Too tight.
Yeah, I remember that.
All the time, every single one, almost without fail.
Yeah.
And you're drooping on the bottom. So now you keep going.
Okay.
Now the marks. So the marks are for you to assess how you're doing on your tapers. So if you get here on the back, if you get to the mark on the back, but you're only here on the front, means you're not tapering enough. You get here on the front, but not there, not to the mark, then you're tapering too much. So you can, unless you're really, really out of whack, you can just catch yourself up to the next
Just take
mark.
a little bit less next
By
time.
the time we get to here, when you're about 4 inches, which is about this, when you're about 3 inches away from here, then we want to measure what we've got left here, measure what we have left here, and divide by probably 4. You
Okay.
get 4 equal warps at the end.
Okay.
It's snowing.
Yep. It's gonna turn to rain later.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
All yours.
All right.
It's not going to break. It's strong.
Okay.
And there's going to be a weft over it.
Okay.
So I would be okay with that.
As long as it doesn't look way out of place up here, is that the... We're looking at a really thin piece.
It is pretty thin here.
Yeah.
You can cut some of that out.
Okay.
Because it's bulging.
Just to toughen
But
it up a bit.
I don't think I'd worry about that.
Okay.
Definitely no tighter than that. Okay.
Okay.
But you're doing good on the tapering.
So I may want to take a spoke shave and shave these little, or just peel them off with a finger.
I wouldn't peel them off with a finger.
Okay.
Because you're likely
Because they'll
to
just run,
get
right?
a real big tear.
Okay.
But you can take a spoke shave and knock that off.
Okay.
Don't touch this edge. And chances, there's some of that is going to be underneath.
Covered.
Not all.
Okay, so maybe just leave it then, and
I would take a little bit out of here. That
it's like paper.
Yeah, that little edge, and it's also bulging relative to this. So I would just take some of that out of there. And
So once you've set the tension,
these are getting dry also.
it's going to start the extra material that's on the top will migrate to the bottom, right? I mean, you can't. So I'm pulling it tight, I'm bending it around, and then I'm setting.
You just want to overall have, yeah,
Okay.
and it doesn't matter. It's the overall tension.
Okay. So the bulging happens later on its own anyways, but while you're setting the tension, you want the bottom to be completely tight and the top should be able to touch the bottom.
That's how I set the tension.
Okay. Okay.
If it moves a little bit, so
It's gonna
yours
even
are
out.
not really moving.
Yeah, it's fairly
fine.
tight.
I mean, sometimes I'll see a piece down like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I see what you're saying now.
If you look at the underside of that chair that we brought in, the classic side chair,
The old one.
there's a wedge underneath there because there was a piece that was so loose that we wedged it, and I just left it in there.
Okay.
So when you splice inside to outside surface, not like that.
Okay. I can see that.
I've seen it
I
all.
can see it happening. Yeah.
I'm going to put that down so I don't have to look at my handwriting on the bottom of the chair. Grab me a clamp and the thread. If the two pieces are not the same width, it'd be good to keep them about the same width. So overlap about 2 or 3 inches.
Okay.
And we're going to cut a little notch here on one end and opposite. You take, this is a wax linen. You can also use wax polycord. So just hold that up.
Sure.
So around the front, around once, back, and then knot, and try do the knot on the inside or the bottom so that you don't see it when you it doesn't look bad.
That's just a square knot then. Nothing fancy.
Any knot you can tie.
Okay. That won't come undone.
And trim, and then that's what it looks like there.
Okay.
So that looks pretty nice, and then do it again on the other side.
Okay, so that is like 100 times simpler than what we did when I was here last time.
So we're going to start over 1, then under 2, over 2, all the way across. This is probably the only place I actually count. And the rest I
Just
just do by pattern.
Okay.
We're going to pull tight. Really tight. So that nasty part is mostly underneath. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, then so I don't do this myself, but for students, these first 2 warps are essentially treated as a single warp, pretty much the whole way.
Okay.
So I have students take them together to remind them that that's one.
Okay. And they overlap at the bottom, so that's okay.
Just pretend that's one.
Okay.
Bottom we're going to do over 3, under 3.
To save time.
Patterns.
What's that?
There are going to be different patterns.
Okay.
But we start over 1. over one.
Number 3.
And whatever you get
Okay.
at the end, and depends on how many warps there are, which varies.
And then pull a little tight again, huh?
Always tight. Yeah.
Always tight.
Now on the top, we're going for straight across, but on the bottom, we're actually at a slight diagonal.
Okay.
And the reason is we're starting on row 1, we're ending at the beginning of row 2.
Okay.
Flip it over. What's the next row start?
Let's see. You go one further than last time.
So over 2.
Over 2, under 2, over 2, under 2.
So I think you can do that.
Okay.
And pull tight. So what's going to happen in general with the weaving bows towards the center and bunches towards the back, that will happen with this. It'll bow towards the center, and the bunching gets exacerbated by the angle of the rungs.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll make it worse. So you're going to be pushing in towards the center and pulling towards the sides to try and keep that
Straight on the top.
weft straight. That's the goal.
Okay.
Okay. Keep it wet.
Keep it wet. Alrighty.